This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Squiz Kids! It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Tuesday, March 16. In Squiz Kids today, protests in the streets. Here comes the big wet. Beijing buried under a sandstorm. And Sam Kerr, Beyonce and Tay-Tay slay it. That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
Women and men from all over Australia and from all walks of life took to the streets of cities and towns around the country yesterday to call for equality between the sexes and an end to violence against women. From Parliament House in Canberra to the main squares of Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Adelaide, and even in small country towns, there were marches and speeches and gatherings of people as part of a movement called March for Justice. Marching in the street to have your voice heard is one of the great things about living in a democracy. Some of the greatest changes in the history of ever have come about as a result of people power, which is to say, the coming together of like-minded people around a common goal. In the last 50 years alone around the world, there have been marches in America to demand equal rights for black people and equal rights for women, marches in the UK to protest against war or nuclear weapons, and marches here at home in support of Indigenous Australians. It's called participatory democracy, which is a fancy way of saying we have the freedom to take to the streets to express anger or frustration or opposition or support for something that we believe in deeply. Break out the brollies, people, and slide into your gumboots. There's rain aplenty heading to the eastern half of Australia this week, with weather forecasters predicting a month's worth of rain in a single week. Sydney and Brisbane and the inland parts of New South Wales and Queensland are tipped to get most of the downpour, as moisture is sucked up from the Tasman Sea and dumped inland. Good news for farmers looking for a drenching for their crops. Great news if you're a duck. Not awesome if you're planning an outdoor birthday party. Soz. Unless you're in Perth or Adelaide, where it's set to be clear skies and sunshine all week.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a new story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Beijing, the capital city of China, where a massive sandstorm has blown in, turning the sky red and sending people running for cover. Traffic in the morning rush hour was reduced to a crawl, as visibility in the city was reduced to almost zero. And breathing was said to be difficult too, as a combination of dust particles from the sandstorm combined with the already heavily polluted Beijing air to make the taking of a clean breath almost impossible. Sandstorms in Beijing are not unusual. The sand and dust blows in from the deserts of Mongolia, a country to the west of China. There are links in today's episode notes to video and photos of the sandstorm.
Sport time.
Holy hat-trick! Two of the beautiful game's best players pulled off a hat-trick in soccer games in Europe over the weekend. A hat-trick is when a player scores 3 goals in one game. Australia's own Sam Kerr pulled off the impressive feat for her club Chelsea in the English Women's League Cup final on Sunday, slotting the ball to the back of the net in the first 90 seconds of play, then again in the 10th minute and again just 3 minutes after half-time. Chelsea wound up smashing Bristol City 6-0 and winning their second cup final in a row. Go Sam! Meanwhile, over in Italy, legendary player Cristiano Ronaldo scored a hat-trick for his team Juventus. It sent Ronaldo into the record books with a total of 770 goals scored in official matches, 3 more than Brazilian Pelé, considered by many to be the greatest soccer player of all time. By the way, did you know that the term hat-trick originated in the cricketing world? If a bowler took 3 wickets in a row, then the club would give him or her a hat in recognition of their achievement. So, how about that?
Pop Culture Corner.
Speaking of record books, Beyoncé took a triumphant stride into them yesterday, becoming the most awarded singer and female artist in the history of the Grammy Awards. The Grammys are considered the highest musical accolade in America, and Queen Bey took home multiple trophies from this year's awards, including Best Music Video and Best R&B Performance, bringing her career total of Grammys to a whopping 28. We are not worthy. Other winners on the night included Tay-Tay, who became the first woman to win Album of the Year 3 times, and Billie Eilish, who won Record of the Year. Go Girls!
Q&A call out.
Did you know that tigers can roar, but they can't purr? Louise Ginman, the tiger keeper at Sydney's Taronga Zoo, says that tigers have a lot in common with the kitty you might have at home, but that's one important difference. Have you got other burning questions about the kingdom of cats and zoo life in general? Well, send them in to Louise, who's agreed to be the next special guest in the Squiz Kids Q&A hot seat. Did we mention the best question wins a prize? Email your questions through to squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. And if you need inspiration, we've got links in today's episode notes to some video footage of the tigers at Taronga, as well as the live stream cameras from inside their habitat. Wow! Hey team, this is a new segment we're trialling, taking a news story and posing a question for you to ponder and offer an opinion on. In WA's election on the weekend, only adults aged over 18 years old were allowed to vote. It's the same everywhere in Australia. Now, do you think that's fair? Should kids be allowed to vote too? This week we've asked some Squiz Kids to write on this topic, and we'll look to feature some of their work on an upcoming edition of the podcast. Because kids are important, and their opinions are too.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. What was the name of the protest marches that took place around Australia yesterday? That's right, they were called the March for Justice. Question number 2. Which city in China has been hit by a sandstorm? You got it, it's Beijing. Question number 3. Name the pop artist who's become the most awarded singer in the history of the Grammys. Yeah, it's Beyoncé.
Shout-outs.
It's March 16, birthday of English explorer and navigator Matthew Flinders, who, if he were alive today, which he's not, he'd be 247 years old. Yikes, imagine blowing out the candles on that cake. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Jonathan from Mortdale, Emily from Medway, Lucas from Menai, Milana from Jindalee, Daisy from Ringwood East, Max from Bellevue Heights, Emily from Mossvale, Nate from Woodhill, Ruby and Grace from Flagstaff Hill, Annie from Sydney, Angel from Forest Lake, Charlotte from Acacia Gardens, Emily from Mossvale, and Jesslyn from Rhodes. And some belated birthday shout-outs to Penelope from Bulimba, Michael and Zoe from Harden, and Josh from Abbotsford. Happy birthday, one and all! And today's classroom shout-outs go out to Class 6-5E from Jerrabomberra Public School, Class 6L from Holsworthy Public School, Class 5-6SM at Umundi State School, the Year 3 to 6 class at Stewart Town Public School, and Class 3-4 Ochre at Ashmont Public School. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout-out, or if you're after a classroom shout-out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out. Squiz Kids is proudly supported by the Judith Neilson Institute for Journalism and Ideas.
Squiz Kids. Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.